Top 24 RBs for 2024. Here we go, guys. My name's Kevin Allen, aka the Geek from DFS Army. And we're looking at the top 24 running backs in 2024. Your RB1s, your RB2s. We're breaking it all down for you. We're looking at best ball, but also season-long rankings, everything. This is just who we like and why. There's a couple of surprises in here, including I've got some running backs that I love 30, 40 spots ahead of their current ADP. I think they're going to rise up. So I've got some late round sleepers for you as well. Let's not waste any time. We're going to get right into it. The first few running backs this season are kind of obvious. I'll start with Christian McCaffrey. Obviously, he's the man. He is pretty much the fantasy RB1 overall. So he is the number one player in fantasy for this year. What's not to like about McCaffrey? He's on an explosive offensive team that wants to run the football. He catches passes. He runs for touchdowns. It's almost a shock when CM sizzles, goes through a game and doesn't score. He's your number one pick overall. Although I could make an argument for taking a wide receiver like CeeDee Lamb ahead of him, but whatever. As far as the running back position goes, Christian McCaffrey, your easy RB1 overall this year. And we get right into a little bit of controversy for me at the RB2 spot where I've got Breece Hall. Hall's going to be a featured weapon in the Jets' improved offense this year, and that really is the big difference maker for me. Hall did really well last year in a terrible Jets offense where they couldn't score at all. A lot of what produces fantasy production for the running back position is just opportunities to score, right? And teams that don't score frequently don't have a lot of opportunities for the running back to score. So think about if we're playing, we're doing DFS, right? We want players from teams with high team totals, game totals, team totals, right? But of course, team totals. Why? Because let's say a team is set to score 24 points in a game, right? Their team total is 24, pretty average team total, right? In a scenario like that, you expect the team to get 3 to 4 touchdowns in total over the course of that game. And when you look at the distribution to the running back position, maybe they're going to get 33 to 50% of those touchdowns. So you want teams that score more frequently. That's what the Jets will be. Hall already got it done last year, and that's really why he's number 2 and why I pushed him ahead of Bijan Robinson, who I've got at number 3. Now, Bijan hasn't done it yet. He looked really, really good last year, but he was still splitting his touches and his carries with Tyler Algier. The Falcons have a completely different offense in 2024. New coaching staff. And most importantly, Kirk Cousins at the helm makes all the difference in the world for this team in terms of their potential scoring upside. So while the new coach is probably less of a focus on the run coach compared to their previous one, more importantly, this team is probably going to be scoring a lot more frequently. The coach has already come out and said Bijan is going to be an intricate part of our game. So Bijan gets the number 3 spot. He can catch a pass. He can run it. He does everything. We haven't seen it yet from him. We haven't truly seen him hit his potential, but his potential, in my opinion, is higher than even Christian McCaffrey. He could be the RB1 overall if used a certain way. So I love me some Bijan. That's your RB3 overall in 2024. Continuing on, it's my number 14 player, but my RB4 overall this year, and that's Jonathan Taylor. Now, what I'm excited about for Jonathan Taylor, very specifically, Zach Moss in this offense last year with Richardson at the QB position was elite. He was putting up touchdowns. It reminded me of Alfred Morris back in the RG1 original year, where a lot of times you think a running QB really harms the RB position, but every once in a while, it's extremely helpful, just the way a certain offense kind of comes together. And that's what we saw last year with the Colts and with Zach Moss and Richardson together. So what do we know about Jonathan Taylor? Well, he can do it all. He can catch. He is an elite running back, where Zach Moss is just a guy running back. So I think his elevated talent, the fact that they will be feeding him the rock in this offense, Jonathan Taylor is poised to have a career year this year. I'm very comfortable with him. Right about at the early part of the second round, I would say right after Marvin Harrison Jr. Let's go to the all, but right after Marvin Harrison / Puka, those kind of guys. And I don't mind if you take them ahead of them. There are running backs available later in the draft. So a lot of times I kind of favor elite wide receivers over running backs when making those decisions in best ball, as an example. But as far as the RB position goes, Jonathan Taylor ahead of, and again, controversy, sorry, a little controversy here, ahead of Zamir Gibbs, who I have ranked as my RB5 overall. Now, what's the difference between Taylor and Gibbs? Night and day. These are two really, really different running backs. And with Zamir Gibbs, as much as we want to have a lot of hopium with Zamir, he looked really great, especially in games when Montgomery was hurt last year. That's where he looked his best. And I think that's what people forget. One of the nice things about playing DFS is I remember the situations and the scenarios. And of course, I do a lot of back testing, which reminds me of what was going on each of the weeks last year. And Gibbs did his best work when Montgomery was out because they used him all over the place. But when Montgomery was in the game, he was a touchdown machine. Think about this next running back, Saquon Barkley, dealing with the same issue. It's unlikely that Zamir Gibbs will be getting goal line carries. That's the negative. Why is he number 5 then, Kev? Well, the positive is he's a great pass catcher. It's an explosive offense. They're in a dome, indoors. Love indoor players from indoor teams in general. So Zamir Gibbs is probably going to do a lot more of his work on explosive plays rather than volume-based production. Think of it as like it's not that different from Devon Etienne. So think of him as like Etienne is kind of like Gibbs light, I would say, this year. Lower volume. I don't expect Zamir to see more than 14 to 16 touches in an average game. I do expect that Montgomery will get the goal line carries. That's the reason I have Zamir ranked a little bit lower than other people might, simply because I think people are just forgetting that Montgomery's there. Of course, week 1, Montgomery could get hurt, and then Zamir Gibbs can go on and be the RB1 overall, which is certainly within the range of outcomes for him as well. So, love him in best ball. We are talking ideally best ball rankings, but this is just seasonal rankings in general. But I love him, but I don't think he's going to be a consistent running back in the same level that Jonathan Taylor will be, or Bijan, or the guys I have ranked ahead of him. I think the top 5 in particular will be consistent, or the top 4 in particular will be consistent scores at the running back position, where Zamir Gibbs is probably going to have your spike weeks up and probably have some letdown weeks where, he doesn't, the lack of volume doesn't, if he's not thrown to and he doesn't get a touchdown, just leads to these 8s and 9s that we hate from our running backs. All right. We've got through our top 5. And I want to mention something. If you enjoy best ball leagues, Beat the Geek is back for 2024. What's Beat the Geek? I like just playing leagues on Underdog against me. If it's fun for you, we're going to be evaluating these leagues. So I've dropped some links in the description to this video of some 12-man, $5 entry leagues, not tournaments, leagues on Underdog. What that is just, hey, it's 12-man league. We're going to draft it slow. So you'll have, 4 hours between each pick. Take your time. I like doing these slow leagues because you can take your time. You don't have a specific time to be there. So if you want to take on the big dog, see if you could take me down using my rankings, man, I give them to you. Check it out. It's $5 entry on Underdog. I put a bunch of links in there. I know you guys always want to looking for leagues to get involved with in general. And it'll be hopefully people who watch the show or DFS Army members, YouTube channel subscribers, DFS Army, .com subscribers, or whatever it is. We'll go up against each other. We'll see who wins. We'll talk shit in our Discord all throughout the season. So check that out. Link in the description below. And if you're enjoying this video and you like these kind of fantasy football breakdowns in the off season, smash that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and we'll keep them coming. This is best ball season, July. We're going to be hammering out consistent fantasy season long and best ball content all throughout the month until we shift focus to DFS in August. So let's continue on here with our top 24 running backs for 2024. And up next, we've got Saquon Barkley, new team with the Eagles. I've got him as my RB6 overall. And you know what? Barkley, it reminds me of a couple of guys here. And we're going to talk about Derrick Henry next as well. Similar situations where Barkley has never been on a quality offensive team. He's never been on a team that's favored very frequently. As a matter of fact, in the past, one of the things we knew with Barkley and his splits is when the Giants were actually randomly favored in a game. Those were his best games. Like, they were rare because they were almost never favored because the Giants suck, right? But now he's on an Eagles team that does not suck. They're a good team. And so you should see, I expect to see increased usage for Barkley. There's not a ton of real touch competition there. The only downside to Barkley, and the only reason he's not in an elite tier, and I'm not like super excited about him, is the touchdowns are going to be limited somewhat by the fact that Jalen Hurts takes the tush-push touchdowns. So those goal line carries from the 2 or 1 yard line just don't happen on the Eagles. And that's probably, 30% of touchdowns, 30 to 40% of touchdowns that any RB scores. So I think the touchdown upside is going to be a little bit limited with Barkley. But one thing I'm not super concerned about is this idea that because Jalen Hurts is a running quarterback, they don't throw to the running back position. That just hasn't necessarily been the case in the Eagles offense. They do throw to the running backs a little bit. Kenny Gainwell's been out there, catches a few passes most weeks. And so they don't have an issue even scheming passes to the running back position. So I don't think Saquon is going to be a difference maker. I don't think he's the kind of player that's probably going to rise above this ADP. So be aware, but he should be a solid yeoman-like running back. You're taking him pretty well late in round 2 in a kind of a dead zone of wide receiver. All the elite guys are gone, and you're kind of deciding between some sketchy wide receivers or Saquon. Make the decision as you will. But I like Saquon a little bit there. Next up, though, is a veteran that I think I really, really like his chances this year. I've got him well above ADP, and that's Derrick Henry. And the reason my love for Henry is big is because Henry is finally going to a team that is going to be favored in most games. And we know the history of Derrick Henry. In games where his team was favored, he absolutely crushes. And I think this is the perfect situation on the Ravens. Tough defense, run the football, smash mouth team where Derrick Henry is going to shine. I think we might get a vintage year out of Derrick Henry. Now, you might say he's 30 years old. He's on the decline. Maybe, right? I don't know. That's possible. Could he be? I haven't seen any of it. There's no evidence that he's fallen off. And remember that Derrick Henry was a running back that really didn't get many carries in his career until he was about 24 or 25. He was kind of a secondary player on his teams. So it's not like he has all the wear and tear of a standard 35-year-old running back. So with that being said, the way that the Ravens plan to use Derrick Henry, we could see, I'm not going to say should, if we were definitely going to see a vintage Henry season, he'd probably be up there ahead of all of these guys. So he'd probably be up there in the top 3 or 4. But I actually think we're going to see a vintage Derrick Henry season, which means tons of touchdowns. We could see double-digit touchdowns out of Henry this year. Man, could it get to 20? Nah. But I could see somewhere in the range of 12 to 14 touchdowns for Derrick Henry. I think they're going to use him a little bit as a pass catcher as well. But most importantly, unlike the Eagles, the Ravens don't like to use their quarterback in a tush push or at the goal line as much, right? They don't like to risk the health of Lamar Jackson. He's been hurt too often. So they're more hesitant to run him. They try to make him a little bit more of a pocket passer, which benefits Derrick Henry because he will get those touches at the goal line. And again, the Ravens are a team that are going to be favored most weeks, and they're going to keep games close most weeks. Think of this classic games versus the Steelers and the Bengals. They're always close. So we should see what is an elite year out of Derrick Henry this year in his age 30 season. I'm super excited for it. And I've got him massively above his ADP. So you can actually wait a little bit. Even though I've got him as my RB7 overall, you can actually wait. And most rankings have him, RB 9, 10, or even 11 after Travis Etienne. So you'll be able to wait a little bit to grab him. But Derrick Henry is one of those guys I'm making sure I get, especially on Underdog, where touchdowns are much more important than anything else. Touchdowns are king on Underdog. It's half-point PPR format. So love me some Derrick Henry this year. Spent a lot of time on him talking about it. Let's move on. RB8 overall, that's Isaiah Pacheco. Chiefs running back no longer has touch competition. Jerick McKinnon is gone. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is terrible. So they don't really have anything else going on at the running back position. I think they're going to lean heavy on Pacheco this year. He's going to just get play. He catches passes. He does it all, and he's on an explosive offense. There's not much more to know. I've got him. I expect him to see 18 plus touches per game, and that's why I have him ahead of Devon Etienne, who you might be saying, Kevin, what are you, nuts? Geek, have you lost your mind? Why would you put Pacheco ahead of Etienne or even Keren Williams? And I'm actually going to, I'll tell you right now. With Etienne, volume is a concern. It's that simple. Volume and health. Now, I said earlier in this breakdown, health, how can we predict it? Right? I don't know. But one thing we know about Devon Etienne, he got hurt last year, and more importantly, he's very small. He's a diminutive running back. I feel like almost people forget that he's 188 pounds, 5'9". That is a very small player for the running back position. Now, they use him well in Miami. They split him wide. He's an amazing over 7 yards per touch last year, which is unbelievable for a running back with the number of touches he had. Spectacular player, very exciting. But you just never know. He's fast. He's everything you like. I think it's tons of upside here. You certainly have the possibility. He's splitting touches with Raheem Mostert, who's 32 and oft injured. So yeah, I could totally see Mostert getting hurt and Etienne getting more touches and something like that going on. But vice versa, the other way as well. We could see Etienne get hurt at 188 pounds, or the Miami pile too much work onto him. He gets himself hurt. So I think there's just risk with Devon, but his upside is massive. So, no knock on Devon here. Love him, but I have him ranked a little bit below the current consensus at RB9 overall. Moving on to, we've got a guy here in Keren Williams, Rams starting running back, that was spectacular last year. He had, I would almost say, historic running back volume. One of the negatives for Keren, though, this year is the Rams did draft a potential replacement, or at least a potential backfield partner. I'm not going to say a replacement, more of a backfield partner in Blake Corum in round 3 of the 2024 draft. So there's a little bit of concern there. My bigger concern, though, because I don't see a third-round running back that big of a threat, and you probably don't either. And he was, again, spectacular last year. Think of Keren Williams as a guy who was like 8K on DraftKings, up there in the elitist of elite tier of running back. And actually, I do want you to think about the salaries of some of these players on DraftKings, because that last year as a guide, and that is definitely something I use. And, he was one of these guys that rose up on DraftKings to that elite level. So great. Love the team. Rams, good spot for a running back. But there are a couple little risk nuggets that I want to think about here with him. Little risk nuggets. No big deal. One is his foot issues. He's had consistent foot injuries, including last year, including right now in the offseason. He's hurt the foot again. So he's got foot issues, and I never like foot issues, right? Those are weird injuries that don't ever seem to heal, or they come back a lot. He had problems with that in college as well. The other thing is he just had a lot of volume last year in the games he played in, and there's a little bit of had a ton of volume last year. So I just think his injury risk is a little more elevated than most other players. With that being said, if he sees the role that he had last year, he'll be spectacular. Be a great bargain, and he's somebody I'm actively targeting. He's my RB10 overall, but I have no problem really taking him as early as RB6. So this whole tier of running back is sort of really similar for me. Each guy has a little bit of a wart, right? A little bit of an issue. Barkley, team doesn't allow for touchdowns. Henry's old. Pacheco's just sort of a right in between type of player, never really putting up 30+ point games or anything, but I do like him a lot. More yeoman-like, I guess, for this group. Etienne, massive upside, but diminutive injury risk is real. And then, of course, Keren Williams, also with the increased injury risk, the foot. People also forget that Keren Williams is also small, right? He is not a full-size running back. He comes in weighing 194 pounds. That 5'9", 194. So he's really even not that different than Devon Etienne. So I think this is the biggest thing that people don't know about Keren is he's small, or maybe they don't know, but maybe they don't care. We don't have many examples of sub 200-pound running backs that had long careers, that stayed healthy, that were good, at all. Not that, I mean, forget the fact that his metrics, his workout metrics, and thanks to Player Profiler for this, but his workout metrics were not great. I don't even care about that because he's shown that he's pretty good in the NFL. And one final word of caution with Keren Williams is he's on a Rams team that just changes their mind really quick with running backs. Sean McVay is known for, like, all of a sudden you think this guy's going to be amazing. Oh, Cam Akers. And then just casting his running backs aside like garbage. So increased risk across the board with Keren Williams. I'm more concerned for him in dynasty formats than this 1 year format because, whatever. He should be fine this year. But there's a little extra concern there. All right. That covers our top 10 running backs. Now, moving on. At 11 overall, Travis Etienne, running back, Jacksonville Jaguars. Not a ton to say about him. Etienne, solid, 75% target share guy. I think he's going to continue in the exact same role. They haven't replaced him. They've done nothing in Jacksonville to diminish his role. And hopefully the team will be a little bit better this year overall with some adjustments of their offensive talent. Although I think the biggest reason might be some improvement with Lawrence, who was banged up quite a bit last year. So I think a healthier Lawrence will help Travis Etienne, but he is who he is. Nobody that I'm going to get super excited about. He's not usually going to see more than 2 or 3 targets in a game. He's got to score touchdowns in order to matter. So he's a bit of a just yeoman-like running back, so to speak. Best thing he might have going from his youth and being on an exciting team. At RB12, I've got Rachaad White. Rachaad White has all the upside in the world. The Bucs had a terrible offensive line last year. They've actually improved it, added a couple of players in the offseason to help with that O-line. It can't be any worse. I think it was ranked 30th last year, so I guess it could get worse. But the best thing about Rachaad White is his workhorse role. Last year, even in his worst games, he was seeing 20, 25 touches. He was one of these guys that early in the season wasn't actually producing big scores, but our DFS Army projection model loved him because he was getting 20 carries, 7 targets, or those type of numbers most weeks, 18 carries, 7 targets. He was seeing like 25 touches a week. I love running backs that get a lot of touches. That's what Rachaad White was and is. That will continue. The coaching staff likes him. He can catch a pass. Nothing not to like about Rachaad White. No competition for touches on that team. Go right back to him. He's a guy that allows us to wait on the running back position this year. I'm fine with Rachaad White even as my RB1. He's going to be consistent. He's going, I've got him ranked as the 42nd overall player. So you're taking him, round 3, round 4, right around that time when the wide receiver position has dried up pretty intensely, or other people might be taking quarterbacks or luxury picks at that spot. Take Rachaad White, especially if you skipped running back early. But across the board, very excited to have him on my team this year. That rounds out our top 12. Moving on to RB13, James Cook. Running back, Buffalo Bills, right? Cook last year winds up with just over 1,000 rushing yards, but more importantly, almost 500 receiving yards and 44 receptions. That's pretty elite for a running back, especially on a Buffalo Bills team that really never focused heavy on the running back position. Buffalo has done very little to address the running back position overall. They really aren't changing a whole lot about how they run their offense. And I mean, 45 receptions last year with his rookie year, you would think that a player like James Cook would step up a little bit in year 2, do even more. The touchdowns were not great, only 6. And unfortunately, unfortunately, I don't expect that to change much. So as Cook continues to progress in his career, I'm just looking for more of the same here. More of this 45 or so receptions, more of this not having a ton of touchdowns. The only glimmer of hope, and part of the reason why I'm a little bit excited, more excited about Cook this year maybe than in the past, although it's just a glimmer and I feel like it's maybe hopium, is with the lack of Stephon Diggs and really a lack of wide receiver weapons, maybe they'll have to get Cook involved a little bit more as a primary wide receiver weapon on the team. I think that's hopium. I don't really expect a whole lot of that to happen, but hey, next up, we've got Joe Mixon, starting running back for his new team, the Houston Texans. And this is really, Mixon's never been an exciting player. I guess he's had his moments, but he's been basically a pretty baseline running back for the last few years for the Bengals. I don't think this situation is any better or worse being on the Texans. It's another explosive offense. But what I do like about the spot is the Texans really actually have no one else. Dameon Pierce, they don't like him. So Mixon's probably going to get most of the work over there. Devin Singletary did pretty good in that offense last year. So there we go. After Cook, we've got Kenneth Walker, RB16 overall. People don't like Kenny Walker. I'm not really sure why. I'm not very excited about the Seattle offense in general this year, but Walker continued to get a solid role. He certainly, at this point in the draft, we're not getting elite running back talent for the most part. We're getting guys who are splitting touches or who have, issues. But I think Kenny Walker is a perfectly acceptable running back to sort of anchor your RB2 spot if you need him there. I've got him probably ranked a little bit higher than everybody else. I'm less worried about Charbonnet in terms of taking Kenny Walker's primary role away. Charbonnet's main negative is that he gets a lot of the third down work, the passing game work, a lot of that kind of, it kind of steals the extra 7 or 8 fantasy points that most other workhorse running backs would get because they're just in the game the whole time. But Walker will get more of the goal line carries. He has more touchdown upside, and he could easily get double-digit touchdowns this year. It could be a solid overall season. So no worries. I like Walker. Not a difference maker on your team, but not somebody who's hurting you either. Next up, it's Kamara. Kamara getting older, but still in the same kind of role for the Saints compared to last year. One thing that Derek Carr loves to do is he does love to check down to the running back position, and Kamara was actually, I think, the RB3 in the PPR formats for the games that he played last year. So I think he can really outplay his ADP here, especially in full PPR formats like DraftKings and unlike Underdog, which does half-point PPR. So keep that in mind. Kamara, though, solid player, really just not liked because of age. And I've got him ranked RB17 overall and my number 69 player overall. 69, what's up? That's good luck. All right. Moving on, at RB18, we've got Zamir White, running back, Las Vegas Raiders. What's to know? The Raiders did nothing to replace Zamir White in the offseason. They got rid of Josh Jacobs. Zamir White looked good in very, very limited action last year. Zamir has a pretty good set of metrics around him. He's got good size, 215, 6 feet. It's almost ideal for a running back. Speed, 4.4 on the 40. Now, he was a 4th-round pick in 2022. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Hasn't done a whole lot in his career, but in the few games that he did play last year, towards the end of the year, he put up some decent metrics. So Zamir White, really just a volume-based, just a guy type runner, but he can catch a pass. I think he caught, 15 receptions last year in limited touches. So we'll see what happens, but I think Zamir can be a solid player for your team. Moving on at RB19, I've got David Montgomery there. We know who he is. He's playing behind Jahmyr Gibbs. He just gets lots of touchdowns. Really good for actually the Underdog half-point PPR format. So definitely keeping David Montgomery in mind late. Don't be scared of him. You can get him pretty late in your draft. I've got him as a 73rd overall ranked player. After Montgomery, I've got Ramondre Stevenson. Everybody's down on the Patriots offense. I'm high on the Patriots offense this year. And by that, I mean, I like them better than the field does because, listen, they improved the QB position. They drafted a rookie. The rookie could be terrible, could be good. They drafted some wide receivers. They've had nothing. They had nothing going on last year. No talent almost at all on the offense in 2023. So in 2024, fresh quarterback, couple of wide receivers drafted. but they did not mess with the running backs. Ramondre has no touch competition. People forget who else is on the Patriots that's going to get touches. When Ramondre Stevenson has gotten big workloads, he has absolutely produced. He catches, he does everything that you want in a player. You're getting him very late in the draft. I actually think I'm going to wind up moving Ramondre up my rankings. The more I think about it, who's the competition here, right? So new team, new coaching staff. Everybody still thinks this is, the Bill Belichick era. It's not. He's gone. And so Ramondre, pass catches, just a workhorse back. Think of, we're going to get a few of those here. Just these solid guys that you can get late. And these are reasons why you can actually just wait in the draft to take a running back. I'm not upset if Ramondre Stevenson's my RB2. I'm not even that upset if I have some combination of two guys from this zone as my only two RBs, but I have an advantage at other positions. So the Ramondre for me is one of those reasons why, yeah, you're okay to wait. He's not somebody who is definite locked in, all this and that. But when he's played and he's been in the game, he does everything that you need a running back to do to score fantasy points. And we just have to see if this New England offense can be, not terrible. All right. At 21, Aaron Jones, running back, Minnesota Vikings, new team. Jones can catch a pass. We'll see how he does on the new team. He's got some age on him. I'm not super hyped about him. He's got an injury history that is concerning. So I've got him ranked at number 21 overall, and he's somebody I'm more generally trying to avoid. Not a guy I'm excited about in 2024. Speaking of unexciting, listen, this is the zone that we're in. So next up, we've got Devin Singletary, my RB23 overall. Now, DeAndre Swift was next up, my RB22 overall. And again, new running back on the Bears, new look Bears offense, great, all that stuff. But on the negative side, the Bears have a bunch of guys. Khalil Herbert's still there. I'm not sure that DeAndre Swift will get this special role. He didn't look all that great with the Eagles last year, so it's hard to get excited about D-Swizz, but you never know. New team, new environment. Caleb Williams, great offensive weapons on that team. So I think he's a guy also who could pop and maybe outplay his ADP a little bit. So I'm fine with it. But usage is definitely not locked in. We don't know that we'll get more than 15 touches per game. I don't know why all these teams keep getting rid of him. So maybe there's something wrong there. Right. All right. So at number 23 overall, this is where I kind of really differ from ADP. And this is one of these guys that I have massively ahead of the field as of right now. We'll see if that goes up or down. The field catches up to me. I catch up to the field. I don't know. But Devin Singletary, RB23 overall. Here's the thing. There's no competition for touches on the Giants in the backfield. Singletary looked good last year with the Texans. Texans, not great, but he looked good. He won the job. He beat out Damian Pierce. So maybe he's not that bad. I think he's being undervalued a little bit. He's going to be the lead back on the Giants. Anytime you get a lead back late, as RB22, 23 overall, a guy who's probably going to see 70+% volume, that's not something to laugh at in any way. Singletary is kind of a powerful runner. Nothing really stands out about him in his metrics. He can catch a pass. Yeah, 30 receptions. He had 40 receptions in 2021. At one point in 2021, when he was with the Bills, it kind of seemed like he was their pass catching running back. He was sort of the Thunder or the Lightning, right? To at the time Zach Moss's Thunder, kind of. Calling him that's a bit extreme, but you get the idea. But I think last season he showed he's pretty well rounded. He's nothing that you're going to get crazy excited about. He's not a DraftKings, 7K running back. He won't be that all year, but he's a starter. He'll get all the volume on his team. And that's enough for me at this point in the draft. I just think the field is way too down on Singletary. And the concerns for the running backs below Singletary are more legit. And I'll just kind of go through a few of these here and run through. James Conner, though, is my RB24 overall. And again, big concerns. Conner, the Cardinals drafted Trey Benson, a really solid running back who I think is going to eventually beat out and win the job. Conner has looked really good, but he's also been banged up quite a bit. He's entering his age 29 season. This is a high risk play. I don't think in Bestball, for example, you're safe to take James Conner. You must handcuff him with someone like Trey Benson. So if you do take him, make sure you handcuff him. He's not a lock button to be the starter all year. He gets hurt. Rookie comes in, takes over the job. There's all of that. But Conner has absolutely looked good in the role. Now, rounding out just a couple of other names I want to mention here. Jonathan Brooks is the rookie in Carolina. If you draft him, you're really going to want to have Chuba Hubbard as well. And that way you could kind of lock up the Carolina backfield, so to speak. But I do think Brooks is a really good pick as well and could well outplay his ADP. Raheem Mostert right after him at RB26 overall. Just worth a mention that if he does manage to stay healthy in his age 32 season, he might get just as much production as Devon Etienne, but you get him 30, 40 picks later. I've got Mostert, though, ranked a little bit below most other ADP, certainly below his ADP, because I think at age 32, the injury risk is massive. And plus the rookie there and Etienne being sort of another year into the league, I just think Raheem Mostert gets hurt the most. So that's going to round out our top 24 running backs for the 2024 season. Again, reminder, if you want to take me on, I got the Beat the Geek Underdog contest posted in the description below. So you just take me on. It's a $5 draft on Underdog, and we'll just have some fun. We'll draft. I'm going to keep those going, so we'll keep putting those out there. We'll do a bunch of leagues together. So if you're in one, join them all. I don't care. We'll do a couple of those drafts. We'll analyze a couple of them on shows later this year. We'll talk about how people drafted their leagues. And remember, leagues are 12 teams, much like your season-long fantasy league. It's not like a tournament. It's not like these big underdog tournaments or any of that. It's just a fantasy league, 12 people. Everybody throws in $5. It's fun to draft. It gives you a little bit of draft exercise those draft muscles now, so that when you do finally get to your season-long leagues, you've done enough drafts that you're comfortable. You kind of see how things fall. So make sure if you want to take me on and see if you could take me down in some of these leagues, link in the description below. And keep coming back. It is July, and it is best ball fantasy season. We're talking fantasy rankings and sleepers and all that stuff here on the channel. So we got a lot more video content coming your way. Make sure you like the video, you're subscribed to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you find out so you see when the next videos come out. I'll be here all throughout the month, rankings, sleepers, everything you want to get ready for your draft. I'll see you guys next time.